Fig fam, how are we? Figs and water because it's the afternoon. Well, just at lunchtime. But I wanted to say happy spring, everyone, because it was a long winter. And this video today is what I'm doing in the springtime for preparation for my fig trees, for my fig tree nursery. So getting ready for plants for sale for all of you, for anyone out there who wants a fig tree, and then showing you how I grow them, especially in the spring. I do some spring fertilization techniques and strategies. And after a long winter, I have some pruning to do because there was some dieback that I wasn't ready for. I had a lot of snow, which is very rare for Wilmington, North Carolina. Again, we have palm trees, we have live oaks, magnolias. We're in the southeastern coast. We're zone 8B. Palmettos are native here. And we had about 5 inches of snow. Then we had an ice storm. We had weeks in the 20s as the lows. We had even a few teens. So we pushed the upper limits of zone 8B, and my fig trees felt it. Now, a lot of them recovered nicely, but some of them I had to cut down to the ground. They had died back to the ground, but we also do that when we want to do a rejuvenation prune, which I've talked about in previous videos. But the best part is that we're through it. Typically our last freeze or frost date's April 1st. We might get some cold swings later this week in the low 40s, but that's okay for fig trees, even if they've pushed out buds or leafed out. I'm going to hold off planting my nightshades and things before then. But if you look, fig trees, Coldodama ramata. These heavy prunes, you know, I did a lot of heavy prunes for all of you guys for fig cuttings. And sometimes that exposes your fig trees to make them more susceptible to dieback and freeze damage. But if you guys look here, when they get big and mature enough, I have trees like this, like my Genovese Nero, the AF strain. That's phenomenal. I even have Breba on it. And what's important to note about Breba is after a certain size, you can guarantee that they're going to ripen for you. You can see there, they're about the size of a quarter. Phenomenal. These will be my first Breba ever on Genovese Nero AF. But I want to show you guys something that hit hard on my heart. And if you look here, it looks like there's no fig trees. But that's because I had to cut them back down to the ground because there were cold winters. Even my hardy varieties like Long de Oot and a hardy Chicago type that I know as Brooklyn Park JD. So I still got lots of cuttings out of them. They're showing life. And even my Ronde de Bordeaux I had to cut down to the ground. But less hardy varieties like this one that has seen dieback before didn't suffer this year. This is my Borges Oak Grease. We also had one that I pruned a lot that did great, my Peter's Honey behind me, my Tarama over there, my Genovese Nero, and my Col de Dames. My Col de Dames Noir and Blanc suffered a little bit of dieback, but I harvested a lot of cuttings from them, and they are waking up beautifully. If any of you guys follow Profig, he is a fantastic resource. He talks about how Col de Dames can handle, once they're mature, they can handle heavy pruning quite well, and they bounce back from it. So I took his advice, and you can see here, they are bouncing back nicely. So let me show you what I did with my fig trees in this harsh winter when they had dieback, what I did about it, and how I'm strategizing for fig trees going forward. So if we take a look out here, guys, I had one of the more uncomfortable winters as a fig tree nursery here in Wilmington, North Carolina. And it gave me a lot to think about. And I think still it's avoidable, but I think I could do some strategies where I could put some sort of low tunnel structure when I scale to protect fig trees, or I could really focus on the hardy varieties, or I can get in the habit of just rejuvenation pruning varieties that do well with that every year, like Ronde de Bordeaux, like hardy Chicago, even varieties like Long de Oot. And what I'm seeing here is that my more sensitive varieties are still dying back to the ground, but some of them, like my Paradiso and Figo Preto, don't necessarily recover the same way because of the quantity of heat time they need after they set out new growth. And they focus a lot on growing in the growing season, their leaves, rather than setting fruit. That being said, I've had Rejuvenation pruned this Paradiso multiple times now, and it's grown back 8-9 feet, and it just ripens later in the season, which we can do here in Wilmington, North Carolina, Zone 8B, because we have a long fall where I have been known to have figs into November, and I even harvested a fig early December. That being said, my fig nursery that's in my backyard has suffered a lot of dieback. I have an Instagram video that I posted about a fig tree right here, which is my hardy Chicago variety that I had in the ground called Brooklyn Park JD. And I had to take it down to the ground. And that was really, really difficult for my heart because it's such a hardy variety. I prefer to grow my fig trees in a tree shape, but it wasn't in the cards. And so I took it down to the ground, and this kind of delays the growth of fig trees. Now, when they grow a lot, but they start a little later in the season. If you look right here, my Paradiso, I thought did fine. In fact, I posted a video about all the snowfall we have here and my figs doing great. They really suffered some dieback with the sequential cold temperatures that followed that snowfall, ice storms, we had temperatures in the teens. So what made them a little more vulnerable really doubled down on their ability to stay hardy when the conditions were rough all this winter. In fact, we really didn't get warm temps that we typically have in March until the end of the month. So if you take a look at my expanse here, all of these trees are practically down to the ground. And I tried to salvage many of them, and I think that I'm just gonna have to continue to cut them back to the ground. Now, the silver lining is I was worried that some of them actually died completely. And just like the resiliency I talk about with fig trees, and just like how I get nervous if my fig cuttings are even going to root, my fig are turning around for me. And that helps that we have an exceptionally warm spring right now. And this warm weather, I think, is going to catapult and launch these fig trees into growth. So let's take a look at a few of them. So taking a look at one that I wasn't surprised was going to die back is my Smith fig tree. But I have a lot of buds and it's already bouncing back. It already knew the assignment. You can see the growth coming back. It's been known to do this in my yard here. It's not new to me. What happens is it takes longer to lignify than other fig trees. And there's a similar variety called Texas BA1. I chatted with Ross Ratty on it, and he posted a really fantastic video about the lignification process of fig trees to make them more resilient in the winter and to make their cuttings more viable. And I find that if I can get this growth to harden nicely, they're fantastic cuttings. If I don't, I almost don't sell them because they're that difficult. They kind of stay a little too green. Texas BA1 is said to be very, very, very similar to Smith, but it will harden off much faster. And I have one right now, but only one. And I'll keep you posted on the taste of this fruit when it gets big enough. But she's just a baby right now. But Smith, if you can get this to grow, it is a fantastic fig. And so I might do some cold protection strategies next winter that I am privy to from living up north. So wrapping it, giving it extra mulch in the base. So we'll go from there. The next tree I want you guys to take a look at, and I'm zooming out so I can talk to you a little bit while I do it, is this Figo Preto tree. And this is a very heartbreaking moment for this Figo Preto. It's gonna bounce back for me, but it had some of the best growth I had ever seen on a fig tree. And it's something that I deeply associate with these black Madeira type figs. They grow in this nice old growth form. So I was trying to protect what was left of the fig tree, and it just wasn't gonna work. And so when I thought I had saved this branch, I was gonna make this the new main branch, I saw 0 buds. In fact, when I peel back here, it's brown. So we know that we had lost dieback. These little buds that were off of it had died back. But I have at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 buds coming out from this main trunk. And if you see this main trunk, good luck getting rid of this fig tree because that is a resilient trunk that has seen many a winter here. And I want to protect it the best way I can. And this fig tree is about 8 years old that I got from a guy who grew figs in containers in Pittsburgh. So shout out to you. But I need to take this back. Sometimes you have a partial dieback of wood and there's still sap flowing and health in the other part of the tree. Rather than growing a half healthy branch, I want to focus on growing whole healthy new branches at the bottom. And so I'm going to continue to do a rejuvenation prune right down to where I see some growth. And I'm going to go just above that, just a few inches. I think these are wide enough that I can actually get this to break off. And I sharpen these regularly. I still saw some live growth on half of the branch, but I have at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'll bring you in close to see. So this live wood's here, and I'm actually going to paint over that with some Ivy Organics plant guard that I have left over. But I have these buds here. I have these buds here. You guys can see those little baby buds. I actually have two buds right here from old nodes, right, on this big main trunk. And so you're going to be able to see a nice rebound of growth out of this main trunk. Figo Preto. You can see how barren it is across all of these trees. And in fact, my Paradiso, which I thought was going to be fine, showed me signs that it's not doing well. And here are some of the signs. Put this down for you so you can easily see. Through the plant guard, I am seeing some sort of fungal decay, and that means we have lost the wood already. So if I were to take this and scrape along here, you can see that that wood didn't make it. Before, when I first tested it, it was green, but it could have already been in the process of dying back. So this is a really red flag for this, and I see it across all 3 of these trees. But there is hope. And the hope is seen here in the base of these trees. Remember, this Paradiso fig tree is at least 8 or 9 years old. I bought it from Bill from Off the Beaten Path Nursery. So it has a long history with me. It was the first cuttings I tried to propagate and failed at, buying them from Encanto Farms, which used to be the main holder of Figs for Fun Forum. So I never really want to get rid of it. It was supposed to be hardy. It was found in Maryland by Jean Jose, which is why it's called Paradiso Jean, along with a few other varieties like Kathleen's Black. But since then, a lot of new Paradisos have come to rise, and I actually have in my hands on a Paradiso Giovanni, which was when I first heard about the Paradiso fig to begin with. The silver lining of all this dead wood is that I've seen this fig tree grow 8 feet in the past, and it can still fruit later in the season. To zoom in, I have buds here, here, and this is here. And this is a really great sign that I have buds on both sides of the branches. That means the entire branch is healthy at that point. The downside is that we lost all this growth that I thought I had. And I spent all this time trying to get scaffolding branches. And this fig tree in the ground here in Wilmington just wants to grow as a bush. And so I think we're just gonna have to let it grow as a bush. I've harvested suckers from this tree. I have 3 suckers and they all took. So the suckers were protected. This nice deep mulch layer that I have with even the leaf mulch on top did a fantastic job of keeping this fig tree alive. So what I'm gonna do is if there's any half branch energy still left, I'm gonna take it off. Whew. This is how cookie crumbles. I have some nodes here. They're all sprouting from the base. I feel safe with this tree. But I might be putting it on the cull list because I want to find the varieties that grow best here in this region that don't have dieback. And the goal of Phil's Figs is to scale this into a commercial nursery, something that is a passion project that this all started from. And I get to do all my research and development with you guys here in my backyard. So I'm quickly learning that Paradiso can't handle the yo-yo temperatures of Wilmington, North Carolina. But I had some surprises here that can, including my Coldedams, my Genovese Nero, my Teramo, my Peter's Honey. So sometimes with the bad, always has the good. Buds are coming up, and that is a beautiful thing. If you look at other trees that I thought I lost, like this one, this Hard Chicago, hasn't sprouted any buds yet. And I did it late, but the wood was actually still healthy all the way up here. So we'll see if that bounces back, and in theory it should. I got really nervous, like this one. This along the oot, I chopped it down to the ground. But if you guys look, just in the past 2 days, I have buds right there. Yay, bud growth. from a Rejuvenation prune here in April and trying to figure out a fig tree nursery and what varieties can bounce back from the ground. I did it. I'm relieved, you know. We'll have to see how well it grows. My Smith will grow well from this. My Figo Preto will actually do pretty well from this. I've seen it do well. My Paradiso will easily do well, but again, the figs aren't ripening early enough in the season, and they're not tasting super great. It needs a more established tree, but it might be a good container fig. My Hardy Chicago, I haven't seen anything yet, and it's April, mid-April now, so still a little nervous, but this was a really rough year of my figs. Clearly, this used to be a nice hedged row of fig trees, and now we're gonna have to consider if they can grow back. Remember, I had zero protection on these figs, and not only did I have zero protection, but I heavily pruned them during the winter because I need to do my own propagations to be ready for spring, and I also have to have my own fig cuttings for sale throughout the winter so all of you guys can propagate. So this might be the nature of the beast in my fig tree nursery going forward, unless I start implementing some level of protection. So I could erect some sort of high tunnel for these fig trees that can be dismantled in the summertime to manage the heat, or I can just rearrange the frame to actually add a shade cloth to it to reduce any sort of stress on the fig trees if I do prune them a lot and they're exposed to the hot summers here with the high UV index. So fortunately, all of these fig trees are not lost. They're just going through a big regrowth here. And what I'm actually still impressed with are the trees that didn't have dieback. And that are the ones that you can kind of see right here with my Borges Oak Grease, which has had diebacking before. So it may have just been the conditions that it was exposed to that was a little safer than the others. And then on the other side here, I had excellent results with one that you can barely see, Peter's Honey, which you're right behind, and my Col de Dames. So my Col de Dame Gris, my Col de Dame Blanc, my Col de Dame Noir, my Genovese Nero AF, which looks fabulous and is kind of the poster child of what I want all my fig trees to look like. And it might be because it is right in the best Goldilocks zone possible of direct sun, solar thermal radiative heat from the greenhouse, limited wind. So whatever the case may be, it's doing fabulous here. And then I have my Taramo, which actually gets a little bit less light than others, but it seems to do really well there, and it's an exceptionally cold hardy variety. I have White Genoa that seems to be dying back every year, so that's something to reassess, but I know that one to be a cold hardy fig as well, so it might be another issue. So yes, I had this exposure, and maybe it has something to do with the location of the nursery, but I had years where it didn't die back, which is fabulous, but I pruned a lot of my trees, so we have to factor that in. So not all is lost, but this was a heavy year, and these are the varieties that suffered the most. And I actually had it on the far wall as well. I had my White Madeira #1, I had my Campaniere, and I had my Black Madeira KK. My White Madeira #1 is the only one that really had bad dieback over there. On this wall here, I had my Ronde de Bordeaux, which I pruned a lot of, and then I had my Brooklyn Park JD, I had my Paradiso, and my Figo Preto, and my Smith, and my Longue. Potted figs, I lost some. I also tested the colder limits of those potted figs, but my Nuestra Senora del Carmen, my Socorro Black, I'm worried I had dieback, but it seems to be looking okay, so it might be down to the ground. And then my Italian 258 in containers. I did do some protection with these when it got really cold, but I also left them out through some freezes as well. So I'll be curious to see how they handled it all. I had some awesome varieties that did so well. My Medici #1 in a container, my Godfather in a container, my Troiano Calabrese, which is a very mature tree that makes some of the plumpest, biggest, most delicious summer figs you can eat. And then my LSU Tiger did fabulous. And then a lot of my LSU varieties did fabulous as well. My Edive d'Argentile actually did surprisingly well. And so all in all, despite all my damage on these fig varieties in the ground, I had a lot of really good growth this year and a lot of good eye-opening discoveries on what varieties are going to do well for me going forward, which ones are going to do well growing as a tree. And everyone knows the Col de Dames like to grow as a tree, but Genovese Nero loves to grow as a tree. And then ones that are just going to want to grow as a bush, like my Paradiso Gene, my Hardy Chicago types, my Longue de Ut. I'm bummed about Long de Oot because it makes some of the biggest breba you'll ever see, but their main crop tastes way better and it's still a large fig. So I'm just going to see if I can grow that as a bush and if it wants to be a bush going forward. And then Smith, because it's so sensitive, I think I want to grow it as a bush going forward too, which means that I'm going to have to hit them with heavy nitrogen this spring and then heavy phosphorus late spring, early summer, so we get that fruit set earlier on. Because when you rejuvenation prune or you have dieback like this, many varieties outside of the hardy Chicago family or the Dalmatie family won't want to set fruit. They'll just want to keep growing, and that's okay, especially if I'm propagating. I've tried it and tasted these figs through and through. I know they're great. I'm trying to expand not only fig selection for all of you, but I'm also trying to expand my mother trees for when I grow and I expand and I get a bigger plot of land for my own nursery. For my own personal setup, I'm probably going to keep the micro nursery here, maybe get rid of the potted trees. And when I go to expand, I want to have a whole slew of trees ready to go for Phil's figs. And that's going to be coming to pick your own figs. I'm going to have figs at markets. I'm going to have figs probably through the grocery store chains if I can get them here in North Carolina, and really want to put North Carolina fig growing here in the Wilmington area and on the East Coast for that matter. And so I actually, if you've listened this far, I hope you join me on this journey for scaling Phil's Figs, getting land, becoming a specialty food nursery here on the East Coast where fig trees can grow, albeit a little bit different, that can provide awesome, delicious, tasty figs. So that's what I'm going to do. If we talked about adding nitrogen to the fig trees, I am going to use liquid fertilizers like Alaska fish fertilizer, Mother Earth Grow. I find that to be a really helpful one. And then I'm actually going to use a slow release one that I got from Earth Science. Earth Science makes large bags. It's morganite, and so it's got cow manure compost in it, and then it's got bird waste. I think it's actually bird feathers, and it has a few other pieces in there, but it's a 5-1-1. So there's still some phosphorus and potassium, but the nitrogen is what I really want to focus on. On top of that, you can see I have a lot of weeds here. If I'm fertilizing these fig trees, I want to get that massaged right deep in there, and I need to pull the root system up on these weeds so I don't inadvertently feed the weeds instead of the fig tree. So the next step in my process, and if you guys have a lot of weeds or if you have grass growing over, is trying to remove it the best you can by removing the roots. If you try to weed whack these types of weeds, and I forget what they're called, they'll just sprout more using their matrix of a root system. So the slow and steady process of hand removing these wins the race against the weeds. Especially weed whacking, it helps also spread their seeds, and I don't want to do that. But I'm going to apply that to these fig trees here. The liquid fertilizer I can do every week. The slow release fertilizer you can do every 2 to 3 weeks or even every month. 2 heavy applications should be sufficient, and go from there, guys. If you had dieback on your fig trees, I hope this is reassuring to you. If you have questions on how to care for your fig trees after dying, please reach out. If this was helpful to you, please like, subscribe. I'm here to help you guys grow fig trees. I'm here to show you guys my journey to scaling to a full-fledged fig tree nursery here on the East Coast. And I hope you guys take care. And thank you, Fig Fam.